Alright, so this is another steelhead pattern that I like to tie. This one, it's not quite a deep swinger. It's more of your late fall slash all winter fly. Completely unweighted besides the fact that we're using one of Scott Howell's steely shanks, which are pretty heavy considering the size. And then we got that backed up with a size 1 mustad drop shot. So what we'll do is we'll get some thread on there and tie all the way back to the end, and we'll clip the excess shank later. We'll start off with some chartreuse or bright green uni yarn. This is going to act as our hotspot or tag for the fly. So we will tie that in and just kind of finish it up, smoothing it out if you get that bump. It's just being a little lazy and not feeling like cutting it right now. So what we'll do is we'll wrap this uni yarn forward to get a nice bright little hot spot. The fly we're tying, I mean, it's really based off of just a green butt skunk or a green butt purple, but on a shank, and I'll be using blue instead of the other colors that you'd use in your traditional green butt purple or green butt skunk. So we'll get that in there and we'll cinch it down and tie it off. Clip your excess yarn. I already have some stuff pre-stacked in my hair stacker. It's blue bucktail. Make sure that you get it, stacked really nice, really evenly. It doesn't take a whole lot, just a pinch. We're using this as basically our tail. What I like to do is I like to pinch it, measure out where about the tail I want, and then after I do that, I just trim all the excess off. That's no need to be there, right? So we'll cinch it down, tie it on, get that on there, and then we'll tie it back towards where the yarn stopped. And you get a nice little tail, Then what we'll do is we will grab some black uni yarn. This is just going to be the body. Sometimes I'll add some Lagerton or Mylar just to give it a little bit of flash, but in this case I'm just going to keep it black, so I'm going to actually add flash to the wing, which I don't typically do with this fly. So we're going to wind it all the way up to basically where the shank's clipped, and then we will just wrap it forward. So we wound that all the way up. We'll clip off the excess, keep to the side, 'cause it's still a good amount. And then now what we're gonna do is we're gonna go over and we're gonna grab some Kingfisher blue schlappen, and you can use the back ruffle stuff if you want. I try to minimize how much of the feather I use, just because you're going to end up with the fly basically turning out the way you really desire it to be. So we'll get a couple of wraps prepped. That looks like it's probably 2 wraps. So what we'll do is we'll go in and we'll cinch that guy down. I like to bend it back, give it a couple more wraps just to make sure that it's really locked in there, and then we'll go in and we'll trim the excess. Then we can just hackle it on. This doesn't have to be pretty because this is basically just going to be acting as your prop for your materials that are going to come on next. Probably be a little bit easier if I had a hackle plier, but that I did not bring. So we'll get it on there. It's gonna probably look a little funky because sometimes it does. Sometimes you can get away with, if you twist the quill, it'll straighten it out, but this one doesn't look like it's gonna do that for me. So we'll get that on, pinch it, do a wrap over just to hold it there, lock that quill in place. Then you just see that we have that nice little bump of material. You can use, you know, a dubbing ball back here if you want. I just kind of like the undertones that this will give once we put some marabou down over it. So we'll kind of just even it out so we have a nice smooth transition. And then what we're going to do is we're going to grab some select marabou. That one looks pretty good in black, and just rip off all the fluff and try to get, you know, some of those wispy fibers that you see at the top. And you end up with a nice marabou feather that looks like so. So we'll take this marabou feather and we'll pull back, you know, as much as you think you're going to need, how many turns you want. We'll bring some of those fibers back, weten our fingers, get that nice and formed, so that way when we tie it in it's a little bit easier. And get that down, cinch it down with a couple wraps, fold it back over, and button it down. You can clip it if you want. In this case, I'm not going to. And then what we're going to do is we're going to just fold some of these fibers back. Hopefully it'll make it a little bit easier to hackle. And we'll just wrap it around without trapping some of those other fibers from the schloppen. And as we all know, sometimes marabou can be a little fickle, but sometimes it can also just hackle perfect. So you got a few turns on there, but you can see with this select marabou, you still get that kind of sparse wispiness that really, you know, shines in comparison to using that really thick, dense stuff. You can see it has like some translucence to it, and that schloppen really can prop up that marabou if you use it correctly. So again, we'll just kind of flatten this out just to make sure that we have a nice tying surface. We can lick our fingers and fold some of that marabou back just to make it a little bit simpler to tie with. Now what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to grab some more of that kingfisher blue schloppen. This feather looks like it's going to be a little bit friendlier than the last one, just based on the contour of it. So we'll get the feathers that we like. That front portion looks pretty good to me. Discard all the fluff in the back. Looks like we have a little bit better of a quill to hold on to this time also. It's going to take a few more turns than that under that we wanted. But it will look good. So we'll get that on. Tie it on, Really cinch it down. Make sure you grab all those materials. Sometimes you get a couple loose fibers in there and it just kind of can be a pain to get a hold of. So we'll fold this slop and feather back and we'll hackle it on like you would any other way. And just get some really nice turns on it. As you know, Steelhead love black and blue. And if there's any fly that I had in my box, it would be something black and blue. That is for sure. Works great in the winter, works great in the summer. Steelhead just really, really like it. So cinch that down. You can kind of see where this fly is going. You know, it's not too crazy. It's not real elegant, but it's definitely fishy. So once we're done with that, we'll go back over here and we're gonna grab some, this is a tealish ostrich. I don't remember exactly what the color is, but it really, really looks cool in the water. So we'll grab, you know, probably a few fibers. I would say, you know, 4 to 6, anywhere in that ballpark is gonna get the job done for what we're doing. So we'll get those out. And sometimes with ostrich, you're gonna get a few fibers that might be a little bit shorter, so we'll just discard those. Maybe keep them for later, you know, make a tag with them or something cool. So I'll measure it out just to about where the hook's at. I like my hook on this fly especially to be a little bit further back. Oh, there's another one of those ostrich feathers that kind of just was clipped. But yeah, I like the hook to sit a little bit further back than the fibers on this. And then what we'll do is we'll just tie that ostrich in. We'll come up here. We'll cut it really close. That way we have a nice clean head. And we'll wrap back up just to clean it up a little bit. And then wrap back. And then from this point, we're gonna add a little bit of blue crystal flash. Something you should never tie without for the most part. That didn't turn out very well. Let's just clip it. So I grabbed a little bit more than I need. I typically like 3 or 4 strands. Then what we're gonna do is find a good tie-in point. Tie it on the lateral of one side. If it's a little long, you can pull it out and then fold it over and tie it on the lateral of the other side. And then you can cinch it down. And what I like to do once I cinch it down is I like to actually evenly disperse it over the wing and laterally. Just adds a little bit more flash to just about everywhere on this top portion of the fly. Then we can go back. It's almost tapered pretty well. And we can just, you know, kind of clip it at random. But as you can see, you know, it's a really, really simple fly, but you're getting a lot of wiggle, getting quite a bit of profile out of it. It never hurts, always looks good. So we'll go over here, we'll find a couple eyes. And what I like to do is I like to line them up after I select a couple, and then that way I can measure them up to where I want it. So a lot of people, are gonna tie it so it's just the eye portion. I actually really like how the white fibers come out, so I'll probably keep a little bit of those. But I'll measure it up, and then since they're stacked pretty evenly, I'll go in and I'll pull back some of these fibers and remove the stuff that I don't want. So now we got our jungle cock pretty much prepped the way we want it. We'll see if it's gonna be stubborn or not though first. So we'll lay it in, kind of get it positioned to where we want it. I like to just place it, pinch it, tie it. Other people are going to differ on how they like to lay their jungle cock, but for me it's the easiest. So we get it placed on that side. We'll get this guy placed on this side. We'll lock those guys down. Head's a little bulky, but I don't think the fish is going to care all that much. So on flies like this, I'm kind of a cheater. You can wet finish it all you want, if that's what you want to do. What I actually like to do is grab my Zappa Gap, get a little extra line out, or thread, and then I like to just coat the thread a little bit. And then what you can do is just wind it on. It's going to finish the head for you. And then you can wind back over it. It's Zappa Gap. It's going to do what it needs to do once it finishes. But literally, like, once you're done, all you have to do is pull your thread out and clip it. You don't have to finish it later. You can go back with just the top of the tube of Zappa Gap and kind of clean it up a little bit if you want. But anyway, makes a nice round head. It looks good. And that's pretty much it. Not a bad little fly. Definitely fishy, definitely wispy.